Hey film fans, welcome to CinePro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps, from heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters. The movie begins with a man named Kevin swimming in a lake, narrating that he had never been to this lake before, but somehow knows how to swim in it. He gets out, wearing his regular clothes, and gets injured. He mentions that he needs to find his way home. After that, he disappears, and we see him again as a bank manager who loses $16 billion in just 3 days, shaking investors' confidence in the bank and leading to the dismissal of all employees. Later, we see him at a bar after leaving his job, where he recounts meeting his wife that day. She approached him first, saying she had a challenge with her friends to talk to him. Initially, he wasn't nice to her, but she explained the challenge was to get to know him, understand why he was upset, and make him ask her out. He shares his problems with her, and their relationship develops until they eventually marry. We then see Kevin having breakfast, learning they have a son. He goes to work, and on his way, while driving, he calls his wife, who talks about bills and expenses. Suddenly, a car crashes into him, and he loses consciousness. Kevin wakes up to find someone trying to revive him, but he loses consciousness. When he regains consciousness, he's in a different place with the same person, who introduces himself as the Shepherd. Kevin doesn't understand what he means and tries to leave, but the man stops him, saying he's there to help him and offers him a job. Kevin refuses and looks for his car. The man follows him, and as they walk through the city, they find no one else around. When Kevin asks about his car and the accident, the man reveals there was no accident. Kevin tries to call his wife, but the man tells him it won't work. Kevin, confused, asks him who he is, but the Shepherd claims it's not the first time they've met. Kevin insists he's never seen him before. Feeling distressed, Kevin asks where everyone went, to which the Shepherd replies that they haven't gone anywhere. It's Kevin who has moved. Kevin is shocked. The Shepherd takes him to a restaurant for dinner where they encounter strange, sad-looking people. The waitress serves them, and Kevin insists she sit and eat with him. When she refuses, he threatens her with a knife, forcing her to sit. He feeds her meat as he eats. The Shepherd then brings up Kevin's argument with his wife about the bills, surprising Kevin with how he knows this. The Shepherd reveals that Kevin's wife isn't real and that she was replaced with someone who looks like her. He claims Kevin's real wife is in another dimension. Kevin doesn't believe him, so the Shepherd offers to prove it by transferring someone from their current world to another. He chooses the girl sitting next to them and transfers her. Kevin, frightened, asks where she went. The Shepherd explains she's now in a world where her parents don't exist and never met her. Kevin sees her parents devastated by her disappearance. Kevin asks what the Shepherd wants from him. The Shepherd explains he needs him for an important mission. He reveals that in every parallel world, there are transporters stationed strategically to do the same work he does. He tells Kevin that other versions of him in parallel worlds have chosen to work for him, and he wants Kevin to do the same. He adds that there are thousands of Kevin's versions working for him in other worlds, and promises to reunite him with his wife if he cooperates. Kevin begins to pray, which visibly unsettles the Shepherd, who suddenly disappears. Everyone around Kevin stares at him. Kevin apologizes to the girl's parents for her disappearance and leaves, shocked to see soldiers in strange uniforms enforcing a curfew. Some soldiers chase him, but he escapes. The next day, Kevin wakes up, realizing he's been in this world for over 5 years. He reflects on how hatred has destroyed everything in this world. Scenes of wars and protests are shown, revealing that the transporters had been working secretly, using their devices to exile politicians and soldiers. When Kevin turns on the TV, a journalist mentions that it's been 5 years since the Shepherd's last public appearance, and Kevin's disappearance after refusing to cooperate with him. Kevin is seen searching for any transporter to obtain their device and return to his original world to reunite with his love, Molly. He works tirelessly, and when he meets his colleague Gabriel, he gives him a note. Gabriel knows Kevin's secret and is asked if he has any new information about obtaining the device to leave this world. Gabriel mentions a woman who claimed to have seen such a device on someone's arm in the area. The world is shown to be filled with homeless people, with posters of the Shepherd plastered everywhere. Kevin uses his earnings to buy food, giving the rest to homeless people while constantly searching for transporters among the crowd. One day, Kevin sees a man and a woman dancing in the street, reminding him of his wife. His alarm clock rings, waking him to a new day. In this world, the Bible or any holy book is banned, so Kevin writes down everything he remembers to ensure he never forgets. He gives his writings to Gabriel, who keeps them safe. Kevin's neighbor learns about his situation and joins their efforts. Kevin blames Gabriel for erasing the Shepherd when they were in the restaurant, but Gabriel denies it, saying it was God who intervened. Kevin visits a cinema-like place in this world, where he watches live versions of himself in random parallel worlds. He hopes to see his wife, Molly. He sees many versions of himself, including a criminal, a killer, and a prisoner. Suddenly, he spots Molly and becomes overjoyed, but his time runs out. He asks the cinema owner for more time, but the owner says they're fully booked until Wednesday. Kevin promises to return on Thursday, and we see him among the people who want to enter the South area, where the man said he saw one of the transporters. There are security forces preventing them from entering. Kevin is standing with his neighbor, one of the people trying to force their way in, but when they are threatened with death, they disappear, leaving Kevin shocked by what he witnessed. One of them turns out to be a transporter. Kevin escapes and enters a place, telling his friend that the man who disappeared didn't have any device in his hand. His friend responds, saying they are disguised and might have jobs and families. Kevin tells Gabriel that when he prayed, the shepherd told him he wouldn't leave him alone. At night, Kevin goes to the market to buy medicine because he was sick. He sees a small child leaving his mother and walking away. He calls out to the mother, but she doesn't respond. He follows the child, but when he looks, he doesn't find her there. However, when he turns his head, he sees the boy with his mom. He asks the woman if she knows where her son just was. She tells him that her son didn't go anywhere and was beside her the whole time. He leaves her and exits. We then see him remembering when he was with his wife and son in the supermarket, and at that time, the boy walked away and got lost. After a while, the police brought them the bag he was wearing, but they didn't find it. Since then, his wife kept saying he was dead, but Kevin didn't want to believe it, saying there's a possibility he might not be dead. He tells her not to say they should forget him. He leaves her and walks away, returning to the world he lives in. His friend comes to take him to eat. They go to his house, where he is married with children, and they have dinner together. Kevin tells him he's leaving, but his friend winks at his wife, who locks the door. He calls Kevin by his name, which no one else knew except Gabriel. Kevin is surprised, and his neighbor tells him he found out when Gabriel at work called him by his real name. Kevin tells them he is not the person they are looking for and asks if they are transporters. They laugh and turn the topic into a joke. The wife says her daughters want to hear a song. Some of the words are from the Bible, and Kevin starts crying. They ask him to teach them the things he memorized. He goes outside and hears sirens. We see someone telling them to tune into Channel 4. On the news, they say the shepherd has returned, and his main goal is to recruit Kevin. In 2 days, citizens will be chosen through a random draw to pledge loyalty to the shepherd. Those who don't attend will be killed. On Thursday, Kevin goes to the cinema. When he knocks, the place is closed, and no one answers. A man tells him from behind the door that they are closed. Kevin tells him they had an agreement. When Kevin insists on entering, the owner says the shepherd has returned and told him he doesn't know him anymore and that he should leave. Kevin imitates a cat sound, saying it's his missing cat, so the owner opens the door. When the owner realizes he was tricked, he gets angry and asks Kevin when his cat went missing. Kevin says it's been about 4 years. The owner tells Kevin he's been hoping for 4 years that it might return. Kevin says maybe someone from the transporters took it and it could come back anytime. Kevin sits in a chair and asks the cinema owner if there's a chance to see Molly again. The owner says the chance is 0, and the last time he saw her was pure luck, which won't happen again. We see him open a device and find Molly entering through a door, talking to a little girl. The cinema owner is shocked, and it's clear Molly is working as a nurse in this world. Every time Kevin flips through, he sees Molly, which is rare. In each world, she has a different job. As he flips, he reaches the world he came from, recognizing it from the necklace he had given his wife when he saw her wearing it. He throws the remote from his hand. Enters a state of shock, and is very happy. He tells the cinema owner that this last Molly is his wife Molly. He starts asking the man about the coordinates of her world. The owner says it happened quickly, and he can't determine them. Kevin begs him, but the owner says he can't because the broadcast determines the location. Since Kevin left the room, the broadcast stopped, and the location can't be pinpointed. Kevin tells him he'll come back to restart the broadcast. The cinema owner says his chances are slim because there are so many worlds, but Kevin insists, convincing him to help. The owner says even if he helps and determines the world, Kevin won't be able to go without the device the transporters have. Kevin likes the idea, but the owner says he was joking because it's impossible. Kevin tells him to be ready because when he returns, he'll be in a hurry. Kevin leaves and decides to go to the place mentioned in the news for citizens. He meets Gabriel and asks for a gun. Gabriel gives him his gun. The next day, Kevin goes to the place and sees the shepherd walking, followed by another version of Kevin wearing the clothes from the accident at the beginning of the film. The guards are busy with the citizens, so Kevin sneaks into the shepherd's location. He enters, but finds the shepherd disappearing and himself in his room. He exits and finds himself back at the restaurant door with the guards approaching. When he enters, he returns to his room, confused. He steps out and sees the shepherd reappear, with guards shooting at him. He gets injured in his arm and enters his room, confused about what's happening. He peeks out the door and finds a gun pointed at him. He quickly retreats, unsure of what to do. He throws the gun and stays inside his room, feeling very sad and upset. We see him breaking everything in sight and crying. Suddenly, the shepherd appears and talks to him, holding the gun and asking where he got it. Then he says it doesn't matter. He already knows. Suddenly, Gabriel appears out of nowhere, also surprised. The shepherd asks him if the gun is his. Gabriel denies knowing Kevin and says the gun isn't his. The shepherd tells Kevin, this is the person you trusted and gave your writings to. He tells Kevin, last time, you prayed to God and he answered, but it won't happen every time. He offers to cooperate with Kevin, promising to fulfill all his wishes. Kevin asks about his son when he was transported to another world, but the shepherd doesn't answer. At that moment, Kevin hears soldiers knocking on his neighbor's door. He goes out and sees them shooting. He quickly runs back to his room. While sleeping in the corner, he tells Gabriel to sleep too, but he doesn't make it in time and gets shot, dies. Kevin is hiding and discovers that Gabriel is one of the transporters when he sees the device in his hand. He's shocked and then goes to take it, but gets injured in his hand and starts bleeding. Kevin activates the device and suddenly finds himself transported to another world in a vast desert. He tries to activate activate the device again, but it starts malfunctioning, so he hits it. We then see him in the lake where he was at the beginning of the movie. After that, he presses the device and finds himself in another world inside a medicine storage room. When he leaves, he discovers that he is in a mental hospital. He walks through the hospital and meets Gabriel, who had died in the other world. Gabriel has a gun and wants to kill him. Kevin sees multiple versions of Gabriel, all of whom want to kill him, so he tries to escape from them. While walking, he sees Tina, who had disappeared from the restaurant and was a patient in the hospital. He enters and sits with her, trying to talk to her, and she seems aware. She is clearly in shock from being sent from her original world to the one she is in now. She starts asking him to take her back to her world. He tells her that he cannot help her because he doesn't know how to return her. The nurses grab her, and at that moment, as they are talking, Gabriel arrives and shoots at Kevin. Kevin presses the device and goes to another world. This time, he is in a house and sees a version of himself who is a gang leader or a criminal. When the original Kevin sees him, he is shocked. The criminal Kevin is very upset because the original Kevin has entered his world. He tries to kill the original Kevin and take the device from him. However, Kevin hides under the table, and when the criminal Kevin reaches him, he has already disappeared. We then see him back in the world he was in before, where he sees his neighbor, who was his co-worker, being transported in an ambulance, injured. Kevin is spotted by one of the people around who recognizes him. The forces start attacking him, and he escapes. They search for him, and he goes to the cinema, sits with the device, and activates it to determine the world he came from. He keeps flipping through quickly as the forces arrive. He manages to reach his world and begins to input the coordinates of his world using the device. At the last moment, he successfully enters the coordinates and returns to his original world. He finds Molly and talks to her, but her reaction is strange. She doesn't want to talk to him and tells him that they separated a while ago and that it was his decision. He tells her that it wasn't him, but she doesn't believe him. She shocks him by saying that she has moved on and is with someone else now. He tries to explain to her, but she doesn't understand the situation. She tries to hide the necklace, but he asks her why she's still wearing it. She tells him that it gives her hope that they might be with their son again someday. He tells her that he wishes time could go back so he could change everything that happened to them. At that moment, the shepherd arrives, grabs him, and takes him to the world again. When Kevin tries to press the device, he gets shot and it breaks. The shepherd talks to him and brings Tina, who is in the mental hospital. Kevin tells him to leave her alone. The shepherd tells him that he's always fighting him and that he knows he's fighting himself. He also says that Kevin wants to be someone other than who he really is. In the middle of the conversation, Kevin asks and learns that the shepherd was responsible for his son's disappearance. We see Molly crying after their son disappeared. The shepherd says that despite Kevin's rough appearance, it's clear that Molly still loves him. The shepherd offers Kevin a choice: to bring Molly back to him or to return Tina to her family. Kevin must choose one of the two. At that moment, Kevin is torn. The shepherd tries to convince him to think about himself and return to Molly, promising to take care of Tina and ensure she isn't mistreated in the hospital. However, Kevin refuses, and we see the shock on the shepherd's face. Kevin tells him he's a liar. The shepherd then starts saying things that, to them, are polytheistic. He tells Kevin to look at how God lets him do whatever he wants to Kevin, Tina, and everyone else, and yet doesn't stop him. Kevin responds to the shepherd, saying that there may be a lot of evil, horror, and betrayal in the world, but there is also kindness, goodness, hope, and many beautiful things. He tells him that God is everywhere, and that everything the shepherd has done and everything Kevin has been through only strengthens his belief in God's existence. At that moment, we see the shepherd unable to respond. The shepherd gives Kevin the choice again between his wife and Tina. Kevin chooses Tina and bids farewell to Molly. We see Tina reunited with her family. The shepherd becomes angry, takes the gun from Gabriel, and, as he's about to kill Kevin, burns. Afterward, Kevin falls into a coma. When he wakes up, he sees himself in the mirror without any injuries, and the wedding ring is no longer on his finger. We see Molly sitting in a bar, sad. Kevin sits next to her and realizes she is a version of Molly, a nurse, who was talking to her mother and daughter. He asks her daughter's name, and she tells him it's Lucy. He tells her about his son, saying his name was Daniel. He invites her for tea, and she agrees. We see them get married and live a happy life together. Lucy grows up, and they have a son, whom they name Daniel. Kevin says that this isn't his world, but it is certainly his home. The movie ends. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell to stay updated. Goodbye.